How you doing? Well, my voice is starting to go a little bit, but I don't have corona. But what we're going to do is finish up chapter 13 and take a look at our fifth objective, and that's basically looking at short and long-term costs. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get to it. Okay, let me share my screen with you. All right, there we go. Okay. So again, we're going to look at the relationship between short and long run costs here, and we're going to introduce, take a look where we left off. Remember, we were looking at the example in the last objective where average total cost and marginal cost meet. And remember, we said that it was really kind of important to take a look at where the two lines, marginal cost and average total cost meet, which would be this point right here. At this point, where those two meet or are equal to one another, that's going to be the idea that average total cost is falling. And then after that point, average total cost is rising. So if average total cost is greater than marginal cost, and so that's kind of an important point, how can we tell? Well, if average total cost is above, then obviously the green line, which is our average total cost curve, will be above the marginal cost curve. At any point, any quantity that's less than that, then we're going to see that average total cost is falling. That's a good place to be. Past that quantity, anything on this side, we see that the marginal cost curve is greater than the average total cost curve. So we could see that if it were math, average total cost here could be 10. Marginal cost could be 5. Over here, marginal cost might be 15. Average total cost might be 7. So we can see it either in a chart or we can see it graphically. The reason why this is important is that it will help us make determinations about what we should do in the short term and more so what we should do in the long term. So this is the long run average total cost curve, LR being a long run. Okay, now we have an average total cost. This is our average total cost curve and our quantity. And at this point, we can choose from 3 factory sizes: a small factory, a medium factory, or a large factory. And what we want to remember is that if marginal cost is greater than average total cost, then we know average total cost. I'm sorry. If, didn't think I was right. Okay, we want to keep in mind, let me just make some a little, okay. Let me just erase that for a second. Kind of got a little backwards. That happens. They're doing all these lectures at a time. We know that if average total cost is greater than marginal cost, then average total cost is falling. So here is our short run, SR being short run, average total cost curves. And so we have a small, medium, and large factory. Now these are our average total cost curves. So what I want you to see is that here, our average total cost is falling. It's going to hit a point. And we're going to say the point is right about here. At that, as this is decreasing, we call this economies of scale. And economies of scale mean that as the quantity increases over this quantity, so if I kind of come down here or more so here, then over this quantity, then my average total cost is declining. So if I'm a small factory owner, this is a point at which I'm going to look out for. And at this point, I'll call this a quantity of 1,000. At a quantity of 1,000, that's where I want to say, hey, my average total cost curve is starting to increase. My average total costs are increasing. I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to open up another factory or increase the capacity of my factory at this point. Notice then that average total cost falls by a greater amount. But that only happens for a while until we get right here at maybe 10,000 units. At 10,000 units, if I did not change factory sizes, then my average total cost is going to increase. So now I'm going to open even a larger factory, or I'm going to change my factory size to a larger factory to benefit from economies of scale. So economies of scale basically means that as your quantity increases, your average total cost decreases to a point. As those average total costs start to rise. Now remember, what does this mean? This means, in this case, what's making that happen is that our average total cost are greater than our marginal cost. And that happens at a quantity of 1,000 units, up till 0 to 1,000. At which time then, as the quantity increases, average total cost starts to increase. So that means that if I stuck with this small factory size after 1,000 units, that my marginal cost would be greater than my average total cost, causing my average total cost to increase. This phenomenon is called diseconomies of scale. Okay? That's not what we want to do. So I'm going to produce 0 to 1,000 using the factory size small. I'm then going to reap economies of scale by moving to a medium-sized factory. That causes my average total cost to fall. Again, staying in economies of scale. I'm not going to stick with the medium factory in this realm here because this is diseconomies of scale. There is also when we have constant returns to scale. And I think the next slide does a pretty good job explaining that one. Okay, so just to recap, at quantity A, I am benefiting from economies of scale. So in this section right here, okay, or from 0 to quantity A, in my small factory, I have economies of scale. Okay, and economies of scale basically say that my marginal cost, my average total cost, where is that? Is greater than my marginal cost, and so average total cost is falling. Okay, now at which point when I get to quantity A, I don't want diseconomies of scale. That would be this section right here. So I'm going to open up a new factory, a larger factory, maybe change locations or something like that. And then I'm going to continue to reap economies of scale from A to B. That's this portion right here. Again, I do not want to be in diseconomies of scale. So the minute that my average total cost curve starts to creep up, why would that happen? Because then marginal cost is greater than average total cost. And that's what causes diseconomies of scale, because average total cost is increasing. Okay, let me go ahead and erase the all the ink I have on this slide to just kind of make sure you all understand it. Okay. So why do we change factory sizes when we change factory sizes? It's because we want to reap economies of scale. Notice if we take all the portions of economies of scale, we'll end up with a long run average total cost curve. And that long run average total cost curve is based upon the idea of changing your size based upon what's occurring with average total cost. In economies of scale, average total cost is going down. As the quantity increases, average total cost decreases. If we are out here, this would be our diseconomies of scale. Diseconomies are basically, as our quantity increases, then average total cost increases. So if we take lots of different sizes and we put them together, we see the long run average total cost curve. Again, that first portion of the long run average total cost curve, we have economies of scale. Why? Because our average total cost is greater than our marginal cost. We see the middle where it's constant returns to scale. These would be where they were equal. And then the last one, diseconomies of scale. And this is where marginal cost is greater than average total cost. Okay. We also look at specialization of labor through this. And so the next YouTube video does discuss the idea of specialization and how that helps us to achieve economies of scale. So at this point, we're done with this chapter and with this objective. So thank you, and I look forward to seeing you next chapter, chapter 14, where we discuss the revenue side of this in a perfectly competitive market. Thanks. Have a great day.